Hi, I'm Gary Dunham. I'm one of the co-founders of Green Team America, headquartered in Houston, Texas. Green Team America is a dream, but it's a dream that's actually coming true. It's our effort to unite environmental clubs that already exist in high schools all across America. The intent is something like the old CCC back from the Roosevelt administration, where we can put some star power on this effort against fighting the effects of man-made climate change. Star power and people power. We're going to create a body, an army, if you will, of young people, students, high school students that are already committed to the environmental effort. And then we're going to do some projects that are going to stun this planet. Well, the second part of that first, the why now, is we didn't have a choice. Global warming, as the popular phrase goes, is here. It's here, it's imminent, it's happening to us. We didn't have a choice of when it's time to start. We don't have time to wait. And we have started. We had our launch on the campus of Rice University. We did this last month, and we were so thrilled that we invited dozens of area high schools. They showed up, the students, the officers of their environmental clubs, and their faculty advisors. They came, they listened to us, and every single one of them in that audience enrolled in Green Team America. We're off to a really good start. Well, that part's pretty simple. We did. We caused it. Global warming, as most of us like to refer to it, is really not the correct term to use. It is man-made climate alteration. Man-made, us, we did it. We're the ones that caused this problem, and quite obviously, we're the ones that are going to have to solve it. Well, there is time if there is a commitment involved, but the time is not plentiful. There are things happening that you really need to know about, but there's a concern, a caution. Nobody wants to go yelling fire in an auditorium somewhere. That would be totally irresponsible. But there are some things that you need to know and need to consider. Consider the polar ice caps. I'm not a young man, but when I was young in school, I had teachers tell me that there was a mythical passage that you could leave Europe, sail right across the top of the globe, and come up to the rich markets in Asia, something called the Northwest Passage. But it wasn't real because the polar navigational routes never unfroze. They were locked solid. 6 months ago, a Swedish ship went through the Northwest Passage. And this coming summer, we'll see for the first time the polar ice cap totally dissipated, gone. Now it'll refreeze, but it will never refreeze in our lifetime to the extent that it was. Polar ice cap, gone. If that doesn't bother you, think about other ice. A place called the Tibetan Plateau. Almost half the people on this globe get their water, the water they need to survive, from the melting of the glaciers on the Himalayan ice caps. Almost half the people. If those ice caps ever break down, and that system breaks down, half the people in the world are going to be looking for a place to get water. And that's exactly what's happening today. Those are the fastest melting glaciers on Earth. How about the polar bears? They look like Disney designed them, and they probably would never go away, but they are going away. I have a friend who runs a polar bear program at the Cincinnati Zoo. My wife and I visited him very recently. They had 4 polar bears, 2 of them were pregnant. But he said, you know what, as encouraging as that is, probably by the end of this next decade, there won't be a live polar bear anywhere outside of a zoo on this planet. And if we can mess up our environment so bad that polar bears will go extinct before it's their natural time to do so, we can do the same thing to ourselves. Oh, there is time, but not much. Let's be honest about something. You take a look at somebody like me with all the white hair that I've got, I represent very clearly the generation that caused most of the problems that we're talking about. There are probably people that are watching what I'm saying right now who represent the generation that should be actively taking care of this problem and unfortunately aren't. This technologically advanced species that we represent have finally advanced to the point where we can actually change this planet. We can do it, and we have done it. But you know who's going to get the benefits of that? Our children, and their children, and their children. My wife and I recently were very happy because we celebrated the birth of our first great-grandchild. That young man is going to grow up in a world that I can barely imagine. And it's because of the lifestyle we lead that the rest of the world wants to copy. So who's going to fix it? Well, our children are going to fix it. They're going to have to, because they're going to live in this world that we left to them. So I think you also mentioned government. Our big problem with people and the governments, not just our government, all governments, they're not going to react in time. And as I mentioned, we don't have all that much time. So take a look at what's going on with healthcare reform. Take a look at what's going on in Copenhagen. As we film this, our government representatives are in Copenhagen right now, supposedly negotiating for the solutions to the problems that we're so worried about. But there's a simultaneous group that's in Copenhagen with them that are projecting all of the proposals that are on the table right now, including ours, the United States. Our proposal, along with the European proposals, along with the Asian nations and Scandinavia. And if you accumulate them all together and take the effect that they will have on our planet, projected out through the end of this century, well, let me tell you something. There's a number that you need to worry about. It's 350. If you go back over ice core samples and take a look at the last 1,000,000 years of history on this planet, we have never exceeded 300 parts of CO2 per million in 1,000,000 years. Dr. James Hansen testified to Congress 10 years ago that if we didn't do something to stem the rising tide of CO2, we might eventually hit 350 parts per million, and that would be a tipping point that we might not be able to back up from. 350. Today, we're at 390. And as I just mentioned, if you take all the accumulative proposals, project them through the end of this century, we will be at 770 parts per million. Do you have any idea what kind of world that would be? Well, you don't, and I don't, because we've never seen that before. The world has never been there before. We have to do something. Well, we think the world's last best hope are the people that I mentioned a while ago, our young citizens. If anybody's going to fix this problem, it's going to be the youngsters that are going to wind up living in this world that we've left to them. That's where Green Team America comes in. It's a committed group of Green Crusaders that are going to take this problem on, and they're going to solve it. I know they will. They really will solve this problem. If we give them the leadership and the tools and the support, they'll fix it for us. We need your help. We need your support. We need you to join with us so that we can provide these young citizens with the tools and the leadership that they need to address this massive problem. It's a personal thing with us, but it's a personal thing with you and your children and their children. We don't ever want to be faced with a situation where future generations will ask us, didn't you know about this problem? Didn't you care? Didn't you understand what was going on? Well, we do understand, and we do know, and we need to take action. Join with us. Let's help this planet. The kids like to say, the world is in our hands. Join us, and let's take good care of it. It's the only one we've got.